Sonia, we can start the session.
Hi everyone, I welcome you all to the second webinar which is being conducted by Kubernetes. So the topic for today is CMDB and discovery. I'll be your host tonight and we will begin with the agenda that we're going to cover from CMDB and discovery perspective, taking you to the quick introduction of who we are as a company. So Kubernetes was established in 2018 and has successfully started its journey from Michigan, where we are based out. So at present, we are 50 plus members and we are continuing to grow our wings in separate areas of the world, USA, Australia, Europe, Middle East, and much more to add on. Talking about myself, I would like to introduce myself before we begin. I'm a part of Kubernetes COE team. So we here at ServiceNow, I hold 7+ years of experience working and implementation experience in your admin, development, service portal, catalog, and ITOM, preferably CMDB, discovery, service mapping, and event management. Let's begin what CMDB is, right? We know what CMDB is. What were the key challenges that help us to think that we need a CMDB, configuration management database? What were the challenges? So the very first thing is we need to know what is being used within our IT infrastructure and how it is being used. We need to know whether the data that we are covering is current, correct, and accurate. So accuracy of data, maintaining and understanding complex data, consolidating your data, and inconsistent data quality with ill-defined relationship were the challenges which were faced by many IT professionals, which brought them to think that we need a CMDB. Now, because CMDB will always bring visibility to their IT landscape, and IT professionals can focus their attention on making your fact-based decisions and providing business-critical services. Talking about what CMDB is, now it is a data repository. It is an adventure tool. Now, on the top of it, top of your CMDB lies your configuration management process. Now, it is a foundation for all your configuration management processes, such as your service management, asset management, and operation management. What is a relationship, CMDB relationships? We have key tables that I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to showcase you all what it looks like. The base table that we're going to talk about is CMDB. This is the base table. If you wish to navigate your configuration item, CMDB underscore CI. This gives you the list of configuration items. Populate, yes. Talking about the relationship, this is going to give you the CI relationship that it has between your parent and child. So these are the key tables that you got to remember. CMDB, CMDB underscore CI, CMDB underscore rel underscore CI. Okay, moving next is what's new in CMDB, right? From your Cubic perspective. We know that Cubic is currently the new ServiceNow instance release. So how is it different from London that we had? So talking about Cubic, it can prevent IRE from reclassifying CIs. It can standardize your lifecycle field stages and state statuses across the platform, right? So that we have efficient lifecycle tracking and management. It can set a custom batch size per saved query builder so that you can query that takes long time to run or that times out. It can be beneficial for that perspective. We can configure your CI reclassification behavior at your identification and reconciliation level and at the payload level as well. Now, what was there in London? We had duplicate CI remediator. We could reconcile duplicate CIs in your system by using this reconciliation process. We had application services. Now we could convert our legacy business services to your application services in your CMDB. We had CI relationship held, where we would use the relationship which would not comply with all relationship rules, so that we can see the relationship that do not comply with any of your relationship governance rules. Why do we need CMDB when we have a data which can be consolidated in your Excel, right? So many of you might think we can have our data in Excel. Why do we need a CMDB? So we need to ponder upon whether your Excel sheet would be able to tell you whether which CI is having a problem. Can you track the history of CI? Can you help on auditing and also maintaining infrastructure? Can you help automating the infrastructure? No, these are all possible via your CMDB. Okay, now how CMDB works, right? So we would like to know how it works. It can provide you a huge volume of proposition to support your decisions at every level of activity. We say it is standardized. Why? Because it utilizes a single data model, your common processes. A standard is being followed. We say it is single system of record because every table, view, and application that is built on your Now platform can leverage a consolidated single system of record. We say it is extendable. Why? Because base system tables and views can be extended easily. Or suppose a field from any other table can be referenced and used to drive the workflow. Once you've set up the CMDB, you would like to view the CMDB. Now, we as a CEO team have different ways to view your CMDB. Right, we can check our list of CMDB here. The very first point is CMDB changes. Now, every change that you make to CMDB is fully traceable. You can check what date and time it was logged, what are the sources of changes, right? And such as discovery, SCCM user, these are the different sources. I'm going to show you one. This is one Windows CI, which will give you the what time it was logged, this different attributes, what were the data sources, when it was discovered. You can discover now and check what IP it is associated with, tracking configuration files, etc. The other method is Query Builder. Now, this is a very intuitive way and a feature which can give you, where you can query your CMDB for CIs and relationship across your multiple CMDB tables using your service map. Now you can just do the drag and drop facility here where we can fetch the report. The next is very important point, that is your dashboard. When your CMDB is set up, you need to understand, right? How is my health of the CMDB? This gives you the quality of CMDB, the health of CMDB. It relies on 3 C's: correctness, completeness, compliance, right? Now, by default, the schedule job that you see here, this tab, this is not enabled. So we have to manually enable it, right? So whatever you want to do, you have to manually enable it. Now, for dashboard perspective, it helps you to measure and manage your health of your CMDB. It gives you an aggregate score of the data quality in your CMDB. For completeness, we have the percentage of the necessary attributes that are currently populated. For compliance, we have which tells you what percentage of the CI data it adheres to and predefined compliance audits. For correctness, it indicates whether the CIs are representing the current state. So that's how you can view your CMDB. The 3 ways: CMDB CI changes, you navigate to any of the CI and check what data sources it used, whether it was done by your CMDB, discovery, user, manual entry, what date and time it was logged, your query builder, which will help and fetch you report, your CMDB dashboard, which will give you help. Okay, before we move on to our implementation and success stories, we've talked, right, that a CI can have an asset related information as well. Now, what is an asset? Asset is something, software license, a data center, anything that is tracked for your financial reasons. I'm going to show you asset and CI relationship. So it has a life cycle, right? From acquisition to your disposal. Like we have planning, we have acquiring, we have deployment, we have management, we have retirement, and we have disposition. Now you would wonder when an asset becomes a CI. Now a server asset, like we see your Windows server, it will become a CI when it will be necessary to control the challenges to its attributes, right? When it will provide a service to your organization. That is when an asset becomes a CI. When a CI will not become an asset, now suppose I have a process user documentation, which is a CI, but it doesn't hold any financial value, so it will not become an SSA. Sometimes people will be asking you to associate your CI class with an asset class. So you can use a model category and you can associate an asset class with your CI class. So you might be wondering, right, who will be leveraging CMDB? Who are the people? Which are the teams who are going to leverage CMDB? So these teams that you see here are going to leverage CMDB. They will be the key or critical stakeholders during your CMDB journey. They can be used by service desk who would need to have a CI, right? Visibility to a CI, because there might be an incident which has a CI associated. There will be something troubling, a network device, a router or a switch. A network team might require CMDB. An asset team requires a CMDB. Now, it's very important to understand that if we start thinking about how many things are related to ServiceNow, many models that are related to CMDB, we need to be sure that we are working on correct tools. And many of the new modules that ServiceNow is offering these days, like human resources, security, so we need to always take care that this is related to your CMDB. Whenever new module comes in picture for ServiceNow, we need to ensure that CMDB is the core and is the brand model. Talking about the use cases, right? We've already had people saying, oh, what are the use cases of CMDB? Why do we need CMDB, right? What are the important things? I'm going to take you to see use cases. I'm going to talk about it. The very first is business application impact analysis. Now, what does this tell you? It tells you that how infrastructure is working, how it's impacted, identifying how we can apply and cover, determining your potential issues or proactively asset controls. The next is your asset management financial. Whenever finance is related, it is related to your money. How are we going to invest? How are we going to cover? How are we going to utilize? Compliance. How are we going to include those KPIs? Compliance related items to your CMDB. Validating operation conditions properly. Configuration management. That is the basic that we are already talking about. We have other use cases as well. Like suppose I have root cause identification. Now, when you know when the impact is identified, the priority for attending to it is directed. And it becomes very important to identify the root cause. Now, suppose in an incident, I have a CI. That is a problematic CI, or I'm having an issue where a CI is affected. So it's very important that you understand the root cause, which problematic CI was causing an issue. You know, where was the issue? I suppose I had any server. So it will give me a brief preview of this record, what it holds, whether it's software, whatever it is. Then we have your resource optimization. Now, as the CMDB becomes enriched with more CIs or more CI types, several additional benefits become available. So we've talked about CIs, talked about use cases of CMDB. I'm going to talk about data models. What is a data model, right? We have classes. Why do we need classes? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what classes are. Now here you see this is a distinct group of CIs. All of these are classified under Windows Server class. Now if I move any of these to a Linux, it will be moved to a Linux class. When we'll reload, we will see one item will be reduced. We move to 9. Yes. Now talking about the relationship, I'm going to open any of this. Yeah, I'm going to show you the relationship. Now dependencies between CIs are defined under relationship using your related items. So it will all your relationships fall under your related items. Right? It depends on, it is contained by, runs on, exchanges. What are the attributes? These are all attributes. Asset tag, manufacturer, asset, model ID, serial number, company. These are all attributes that a CI holds. Okay, now what is CI class manager? Now, CMDB is quite flexible, right? We know that CMDB has a potential to identify unique CIs, tell which sources, authoritative data sources are required to update your CMDB. Now, this class manager that we have here is going to give you a central dashboard or location, which is used to manage your CMDB tables, which can help you creating CI class, which is derived from another class, identification rules, relationship, and CMDB health definition. Now it will bring together all of them, and you can have a place here where we can view the CMDB CI class hierarchy. Now I expand this, and suppose we create a class. I type web server, right? I type a web server. What do I see? I see that configuration item class. This has an application, right? Which is a child class, which has another child class, which is an infrastructure service. Web server, which falls under your infrastructure service. Now it has 17 CIs. Web server has 12 CIs. I'm going to add a child class here. And the very first tab that we see is the basic info. Now, what is this basic info? It is a place where you can view and configure basic details such as your display name, setting the extensible flag, right? And associating an icon to your class. Now, when I type, suppose I type, this is my web server class. Say it's a web server class. Now, what it does is, now when I'm creating a custom class, now the name is automatically populated, right? With the prefix of CMDB CI and followed by your display name that I've given. I'm going to move ahead. To your attribute section. Now this will help you to view or create a new class attributes. There are 3 filters as you can see. We have added, we have derived, we have all. Added is the attributes which are added directly to this class. Derived is the one which is derived from your parent class, and all is added plus derived. Yes. We'll move to next about identification rules. Now, these are basically used to uniquely identify CIs. Now, this tab by default will display the derived identification rule from your parent class, as well as any defined identification entries. Now, what we can do is we're going to create one. I'm going to replace this. I'm going to create one. And we say save. We add an entry. And I add my attributes as class configuration file version Now, what does this mean? Now, this means the identification is ruled to my specific class, web server class that I've created. Now, it was not derived from your parent class. There's one identifier entry that exists that contains your 3 attributes. What? Class, configuration file, and version. Okay, we're going to move next, talk about dependent relationships. Now, for CI classes, this will help with correctly identifying dependent CIs during your discovery and service mapping process. You can override the dependency and you can add, runs on. There are different relationships that we have. Runs on, depends on. I can have suppose it has my Apache web server class. Yes. So this will help you build a relationship here. We're going to move next, talk about reconciliation rule. Now, there could be multiple data sources that are required to update this CMDB. Now, this process will make sure that you reconcile CI, their attributes, by only allowing designated and authoritative data sources that have the ability to update your CMDB. I'm going to create one and add, suppose, a service watch and give it a priority as 100. I've created one reconciliation through this particular data source with a priority. Now, what is this data refresh rules, or we can say data precedence rules? Now, suppose I have not given any priority here. I have multiple data sources. Like suppose I have import cell, I have discovery, I have ServiceNow, and I haven't given any priority. Now here, what you can do is you can define which source has priority to perform the updates. So the lower the priority, suppose 100, is the higher the chance of it to occur next. We have suggested relationship. Now, what does this relationship mean? Now, They are basically built to help user decide which relationships are reusable when building relationships for the CI class being defined. Now, suppose I say database runs on a server. Now, this can also be read as database runs on the server or the server hosts the database. It's one and the same thing, but the way of saying is a bit different. When we are done, we are creating our CI class. It will create a class within just a few seconds. Yes, we see the health. Now, what this tab suggests? Now, this tab, you can configure your KPIs and metrics that will help in monitoring and maintaining the health of your CMDB. What we say here is your correctness, completeness, and compliance. Completeness required and recommended, compliance for audit, correctness for stale, orphan, and duplicate. The last point that we see here is CI list. Now, what does it display? It displays all your defined CIs. Now, I can create one as well for the selected class. Now, I can create one from the parent and I can add my own as well. Okay, before we move ahead, we need to understand, right, that a properly configured CMDB is very much required because this will help in consolidating and maintaining your data and reduction in your MTTR. Now, ensure that your data is always accurate in CMDB and purposeful. Before we move ahead, there are certain do's and don'ts that we have in CMDB, right? We need to always ensure that your configuration management process is a living document, as well as very much aligned with your business initiatives. Keep improving your CMDB health because that is the only way the population must be automated, because you need to always have proper identification rules for CI and attribute population. If your instance get older, you need to scrub off your CIs and relationships. What are the don'ts? Even after you successfully deploy CMDB, you cannot ignore the health. You always have to check on the health that is visible through your CMDB dashboard that we've talked about. Okay, there shouldn't be any gap between your configuration management team and your end users. So we're moving ahead. There are certain benefits that what I would like to add for CMDB, right? So we can say that CMDB can be used to track changes to CI. Now, what does this mean? Now, suppose I have a piece of hardware, like a laptop. So suppose I'm new to this company, I've been assigned, it was loaded with software for the specific job role. Later on, when I leave the firm, laptop is returned. Now, with the CMDB, the IT organization can track, right, how this hardware, software, licenses, and other assets are deployed by the company throughout their entire life cycle. I've acquired, I procured, I used it, I maintained it, and I give it back. It was returned, disposition, or retired. Now, CMDB supports effective event and incident management. An up-to-date CMDB will always be a very valuable source of fact because it will help you enhance your incident and problem management activities. Suppose there is an incident issue, right? And what we have received is a ticket which is related in connection with the specific CI. What I can do is I can check, okay, what the CI is related to. So any service desk person or the problem owner, incident management person can come up and check and have access to CMDB and check for the faulty CI that is causing the issue. Now this CI record will help you to understand the specific item and learn everything about it. You know, when the company owned it, suppose I add a database, right? When the company owned it, preview this, right? When company, what model it has, how long the company has owned it, who supplier was, any previous issues of similar incidents, etc. So this is how you can get and judge it through your CI. Now, CMDB acts as a central reference point for your IT asset and infrastructure. Now, there's certain questions that you can answer, right? How many of certain type of hardware does the organization currently have deployed? How many installations of software X is currently existing on all your IT organization hardware assets? How many users are currently affected by an email outage that occurs in a given time frame? So these all are certain benefits of CMDB that we have. Now talking ahead, we're going to move ahead and see what else we have. Data population. Now, data population. There are different ways through which CMDB can be populated. Import sets, integration hub, ETL, discovery, which we're going to talk next. Service mapping. They all help in populating your CMDB, right? So it has been quite an adventure tool, right? So when we look at it historically, so suppose I have a problem, I load the data on day one, and it can become obsolete or an irrelevant data, not an interested state, like stale, orphan, or duplicate. So leveraging any form of automation is going to be best possible way to populate your CMDB. So the best way is discovery. There's no darkness. Discovery is just built to populate your CMDB. So the huge benefit that we have in this release is just 6 months back, we came across this service graph connector. So this is a third-party tool which is available as a plugin in your ServiceNow store, which is very much available to all the ServiceNow users. Now, this is a pre-built and approved by ServiceNow. What they're going to do is they're going to take the payload from whatever third-party endpoint along the IT tools that are already supported. What's going to do, it's going to process the payload through the identification record engine to make sure that it goes to the right table in the CMDB. Okay, moving ahead with what discovery is, right? We're going to move ahead and talk about discovery. Okay, what is discovery? Discovery can find your computers, your servers, your printers, and a wide variety of IP-enabled devices and the applications that run on them. So we as a CEO team here, we are trying to overcome clients' issues. Now, suppose what we do with discovery, we can eliminate service outages. Now, so customers have event issues, they have services going down, they can't get to the bottom of the issue. This is what discovery plays a role here. We can eliminate ServiceNow outages. We have to be ahead of outages by knowing our stuff. We need to be very proactive. We need to know the things much before they go wrong or it is too late. We need to maintain and create an accurate CMDB. Without discovery, we have SAMPRO, which is totally dependent on your discovery, which goes down to leveraging your software licenses, data centers. It won't be successful if you won't have discovery. So there are many more dependencies that we have in discovery. There are different types of discovery, right? We have horizontal. Now this would just discover a CI from your network and make relationship among these CIs, not these services. The next one is top down, or we can also term it as service mapping. So suppose, for example, we're using an email service, right? Where you've hosted a website. Now to host a website on Windows Server, you need a database, which is your MySQL, and an application, right? Which could be your Apache Tomcat. Now we have three things. We have database, MySQL, we have application, Apache Tomcat server, we have Windows machine to host your application. They all together will give you one service. That is your report, which is also a CI in CMDB. Now, if I populate all these three CIs in CMDB, we see relationship among these three CIs via top-down. But the report, which is a ServiceNow CI, we can achieve relationship between these CIs service mapping using your top-down. Now, top-down will also use your horizontal discovery to discover these CIs. And then it will start implementing pattern to make a relationship among those. Moving ahead, why do we need discovery, right? Why is it required? Because this provides you an accurate and consistent CMDB. Discovery is a source of truth, and many customers will use data suppose in Splunk or SCCM to enhance their CMDB, but they will always give discovery the right to override the data which is written by SCCM previously. This is also called as dataset prioritization. That is usually set so that discovery update and will be master of masters above all. So what is infrastructure discovery, right? We have infrastructure discovery, we say agentless. Why? Because it doesn't require any manual installation. This is just a plugin that you need to install, and it's a method of populating your CMDB with your relevant hardware and software assets within your enterprise network. This infrastructure discovery uses your phased approach, right, to remotely discover all your IP-based devices such as your printers, servers, and network devices. There are different ways to trigger. I'm going to show you what are the two ways to discover. I'll talk about schedules. Now, before I go, there are fundamental things that you need to understand. The very first thing is you need to know what is required before a discovery is put in place. A discovery schedule is put in place. A mid server. That's the first point. You need to check your mid server. Mid server is configured properly. It's up and running or not. I have these two mid server which I've configured, which are up and running. You need to validate them. Yes, they're validated. Both of them are up and running and validated. We create a Windows behavior. Now we as a CO team here in Kubernetes, we discover sometimes Windows devices. So it would use only a Windows behavior with a functional definition of Windows only. I specify my mid server with a functional definition of Windows only. Now the next step is credential. Credential is very important. You need to ensure whenever you are doing your discovery, you need to have proper credentials, a validated credential in place. I will test my credential here in front of you all. Test my credentials, use my mid, define the port. We have port and protocol. 22 port, protocol is SSH, Unix, Linux. We have 135 port, protocol is your WMI, Windows. We have 161 port, protocol is SNMP. This is how you define. This is my target IP, this is my mid server. We're going to test our credentials and see whether they're valid or not. Yes, they're valid. Now we'll go ahead with your schedules. Okay, my discovery schedule. There are two ways. We have quick discovery. I give my target IP and mid server. I give my mid that I've recently configured. They all go to your discovery status. We're going to talk much more about it, what this means. Then we have another schedule where we're going to have this new. I'm going to show you what each it means. It's taking some time. Wait for it to come. I'm going to open again. I'm going to click on new and see whether it loads this time. Okay, otherwise I'm going to show an existing one, what we have here. Yes, so this name, you can give the name to your discovery schedule. Most of the time you will be discovering CIs, right? The configuration items, most of the time. We have mid server selection method as well. You know, when you want to discover CI types, specific attributes. We have mid server where you want to define your mid server because this is just discovering your services. I'm going to go to your CI based. Yes, so you have mid server selection method where we're going to have auto select. In identifying the mid server, it will look for all the mid server. We have specific mid. I specify my mid server, which I have created or configured. Then we have cluster also, which is load balancer and failover capabilities. Then we have location field. Now what it will do is for particular location, Suppose Bangalore, Chennai, it will be attached to this CI. We have log state changes. Now, whenever we want things to be recorded in the log section, we have SNMP version. We are using the schedule for SNMP device. So you will use select V3. Otherwise, if not available, you can use V1 or V2. Now, what is this Shazam batch size? Now, if I set the value as 1000, right, and a discovery must scan 10,000 IP addresses using a single MID server. So it will create 10 Shazam probes. That is 10,000 divided by 1000. That is the calculation, how it works. It will create a 10 Shazam probes with each probe scanning 1000 IP addresses. Now that we are scheduled, we're going to talk about the discovery lifecycle. There are 4 phases in discovery, right? In the lifecycle, we have scan phase. Shazam probe is launched. We scan defined IP ranges. We identify active devices and port numbers. 161 for SNMP, 22 for Unix and SSH, 135 for Windows. Now, if it sees the port 22 is open, it will log into your CI using credentials and login. Do we have something in chat popping up? I would like to add something here. Question, cloud discovery. Cannot see. Is anyone having problem seeing my screen? I'm sharing. Can you all see? Okay. Moving to, I can see. Okay. The classification phase. Now this determines the device type. We have the launching of probes and patterns, again, active devices. So most of the errors will be triggered in this phase, your classification phase. What will happen is most of the troubleshooting that you require to do will be in this phase. So you have a WMI classifier probe, which gathers some info based on credentials. Now, if the credentials are not valid, it will shoot an error. No suitable error has been found, right? Now, when I was running a discovery, like previously, I will go to my quick discovery. We have this discovery status. I'm going to show you the classification part, right? Now, all the 4 phases that we are talking about, we just talked about first 2, that is your scan and classification, can be viewed here, right? Under your ECC queue tab. This is where it will start. So what it will do is, it will populate the CMDB by grouping like CI types. Now, during the classification phase that we were talking about, your second phase of discovery process, now classification determines where to place the CI and CMDB. Now, how does it classify? How does discovery classify CI? So we'll go to CI classifications, right? Suppose I go to Windows. Yeah, it gives you a list of classification records that can be viewed, name of the record, right, that we see here, and it uses what it uses, the class it uses, and the table it stores it. Now, suppose I have Hyper-V server, right? Now, this was classified using we have another feature called the protocol, SNMP, or whatever you want to add, right? What protocol or protection activity it was using. And it is basically stored in your Hyper-V server table, right? Now, grouped together, they are using your respective tables. Now, suppose I open any of my Windows 2016, suppose. Yes. When I open this, we have a classification criteria tab here. Yes, this is the one. Now, this contains, here we see the name contains 2016 as a value. Now, if so, it will be classified as Windows 2016 server in the Windows server table. Now, under trigger probes that you see, now this trigger probes for next phases of discovery. Now we have horizontal discovery path probe here. You will see one of them having horizontal discovery path probe. Yes, we have horizontal discovery, horizontal path. Now, this will be associated to your discovery pattern. Now, classification of CI determines which discovery pattern will be initiated. during your identification and exploration phase. Right, so now this Windows OS server that we're talking about, now this pattern probe that we see I've highlighted here is launched in your identification phase and is being used to gather details about your CI, which helps determining if the CI exists in CMDB or new CI has to be created. So now this is what classification is. There are two errors we will see here. Active couldn't classify couldn't. So yeah, whenever you see such errors, so it is always about classification. These are only there when you have to go to and check your credentials, validate your credentials like we've tested before on your mid server. Make sure your IP and credentials are correct that you've gathered from your client. So that will be only issue. Classify couldn't identify is a credential issue. Talking about next is your identification phase, right? We will identify, it will collect additional information about your classified devices. It will check the CMDB for your matching CI. There are three rules. If we see a single match, update the CMDB. Suppose I have in discovery, I've added update my attribute, RAM disk space, model tag, model number, asset tag location. So it will update. If it sees no match, it will create a new CI. If it sees multiple matches, it will stop and discovery will fail. Sorry. Exploration phase. You explore more. You probe the devices for detailed information like your CPU, RAM, running processes, which are related to your CI. Now we process the results and update CMDB. I'll just grab some water, please. Give me a minute. Yes. Now, discovery has always been a source of truth, and most customers will use it, right? Now, suppose you're using data in Splunk or SCCM, right, that we've talked about. So it will always be discovery that will have the right to override your data written by SCCM. The data set prioritization is what the term that is called, and is usually set so that discovery will update and will be master of masters. Okay, we're going to talk about this architecture. What do you see here? Now we know discovery is agentless, extendable, and scalable. Now, as per the figure that you see here, on the left, you see your ServiceNow instance. You see your customer firewall. Behind a firewall is your customer network, your infrastructure. And you have a mid server that we have talked about. Now, mid server is what does the heavy lifting. Now, mid server can be installed on your Windows 10, 7 desktop servers, Linux server, but it is preferred to have it on Windows server. Now, this is basically the heart and soul of your discovery. Mid server will do all of your discovering, right? Mid server will collect the data, all the information, like in an executable file. It will install mid server Java files on a server, and the installation process is connected to your instance. And when it connects, the mid server will make an outbound call, right? Using your port 443. That is the port that needs to be open for it to have an outbound call to your instance. Now, mid server will go in and check in your instance and check for any work. Where will it go to check the work? It will go to your ECC queue, that where I showed you. Now, external communication channel is where all the tasks that mid server has to perform is stored, right? It will tell the mid server like, hey, you have something to handle. Please open it. I'm going to show you an ECC queue. When we did our discovery schedule. Yes. So this is my ECC queue. Keep refreshing, it will keep adding the details. Yeah, discovery will keep running. Now, if I open any of this ECC queue, line pointer, okay. Okay, now we see different points here, right? We see agent. Now, what is it? It's the name of the mid server. We see topic, What is it? It is name of the probe the mid server is set to run. We have payload. What is it? It returns your XML message from probes. We have source. Now this source contains the IP address, right? Now we know, right, that this is ECCQ. We have mid server in place that it goes out. We have external sources, which is connected to Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. When leveraging mid server, we have certain rules. By rules, I mean, like suppose in a client environment, you have DMZs, you have data center. So the rule number one is there should be at least one mid server per data center or location. If there are DMZs, that's another extra layer of security. They are present, we need to place a separate mid server inside DMZs. If there is a trust between your data center and remote site, we can leverage one mid server. So these are the three rules that you need to be very careful about. So we've talked about ECC, we talked about agent, topic, names, source, payload, what it means. We can check our dashboard of discovery. Like we've already shown you. This gives you a dashboard view as well. Okay. Now, there is one thing, right? Before you schedule or anything, there is a very important part that I'm going to talk about. You might have heard about ITOM guided setup, right? We've heard about what ITOM guided setup is, right? Why do we need it? When I go to my discovery schedules, I schedule and I discover now and everything. Now, when you roll out discovery for this first time, sometimes how you want to deploy, customers might ask you, they just want to discover only Windows. So there are different ways to do it. One way is your ITOM guided setup. Now this guided setup, and the guided setup that you see here, it's going to load. It's taking some time. Yes, we'll continue. We see select CI data to collect. Now when I click on this, I will configure. Right. Now this is where you can choose, right, what you want to discover. It will just load and you can have a view of it. Now this is giving me subnet. This is going to use discovery. Yes, CI data, sorry. Okay, now this is your discovery configuration console. Now this is the place where you can choose what you want to discover. You can turn on and turn off. Yeah, I want just Windows to be enabled. Yes, I don't want these packages. And what you want to connect, when the discovery goes out and sees that AIX and HPUX service, it starts to discover the CI, right? And if it sees AIX, it will move on because it won't have to waste time, right, in gathering information because it doesn't need to. So this is a very nice way to tweak what you want to collect, right? Okay. Let's see this dashboard. What we see in discovery dashboard. Once it is set up, you've discovered we have different schedules, we have cloud service accounts, we have application fingerprints. So these are the different styles that you will see on your discovery dashboard. Credentials, we've already talked why credentials are important, right? We have CyberArk, which is an external credential storage as well, which is another plugin that you can have. There are certain prerequisites. You can have your external credential storage. You can have your CyberArk AIM API installation on your mid server. Start your configuration file enhancement where you have some parameters that you need to set. And then you can install and configure your credentials using your external credential storage as well. We have validated our credentials as well using Windows. So we've talked about quick discovery and discovery schedule. You need target IP, mid server, and these are the different fields that we have in discovery schedule. Okay, probes and sensors, right? Before we move on to your probes and sensors, how they work, right? We're going to talk about a bit of their history, right? How they came into picture, why were they required? Now, what are probes and sensors? Now, they will always perform the task of data gathering and processing of data that was actually gathered by your discovery. Now, this activity of your probes and sensors is controlled by your ECC. That's where you start. Okay, then talking about your sensors. Now the data is collected, right? Somebody has to process that data. Now that is called your sensors. Processing of data is done by your sensors. Collection of data is done by your probes. So in the figure that you see, we have class. We can have a type of probe to query on the operating system. We have CIM probe. There are different types, or we can have multi-probe, SNMP, WMI runner probe. I'll show you here. Then we have ECC queue topic. This is used for labeling your ECC queue topics for incoming ECC queue messages. Then we have ECC queue name. This is the actual command the probe is to run. Then we have cache results also. If I open and show you. Now this specifies the cache, probe the results in the probe result cache. Okay. We have port probes as well. Now what this means? Now the very first phase where we have scanning uses port probes, right? It probes for your WMI, SSH, SNMP. Now the Shazam probes uses the port probe to look for protocol activity on open ports. On the devices, it comes across. And your WMI. Yes. Okay. I'll show you sensors. Now, after the data is collected, as we know, there should be some mechanism, right, to process your data. That is done by your sensors. So we have sensor type. We can have JavaScript, right, which is used to specify how the results should be processed, the results that are returned from your probe. We have script as well. I'm going to open and show you. Right, we have script field. Now this field that needs to be done when processing a probe, right? We have reacts to probe, right? So this is used to specify the probe to use within a multi-probe. Now where the payload, the multi-sensory must be processed. We have trigger probes as well. Why do we need trigger probes, right? Because this is used to specify which probe the sensor uses for exploration, right? Okay, talking about a bit of history, how ServiceNow discovery started, how they came across patterns, probes, and sensors. What is the background of ServiceNow discovery? So probes have been doing a lot of good work for us, right? They've been around since a long time and bringing ServiceNow discovery information back to the CMDB. So whether those probes are for WMI queries, PowerShell commands, SSH connections, and SNMP queries. Now, if you have horizontal discovery, that is doing probes and sensors, and tomorrow you want to switch to patterns, for any application service. Now, the technology around probes and sensors is not going to be going anywhere. It's still needed. It's not going to be obsolete. It's not going anywhere. It's still critical for our discovery process today. A horizontal process, as they are called, and they are all mid-server based, right? So the mid-server has to do is request to execute a particular type of discovery, and it has the pattern right there for it, which executes the queries and returns the entire payload back to your ServiceNow instance. Show you a pattern, right? So we have, suppose I have a Windows, Windows OS. Now these are the list of operations that are running, right? That we have. I'm going to give you a real world example, right? This was for one of my clients. So we as CEO team in Kubernetes what we did was we created a new pattern, right, for Cisco Nexus 7000 virtual switch. Now, the customer wanted to be able to discover those and identify the relationships and supporting switches that was virtualized. So what we did was in that pattern, we had related items to that CI. It was very similar to what's in router and switches. So we had to create new relationship types, right? Because I had a new pattern. I had to work on its related items as opposed to what we have as an out of box in ServiceNow platform, right? Instead of standard switching pattern. So as you see, there are two sections, right? Pattern can be infrastructure, application, cloud-based. So we have type, right? Windows Server, you can give the name, we have identification, and we have extension section. These are the two sections that we have here. Moving ahead, talking about discovery patterns, probes, and sensors, right? Okay, you would want to access patterns. There are different ways to do it. The first is the one that we see, discovery patterns. This is the first way. The other way is you can go to your CI classification, right? You go to your windows that we have checked, the horizontal pat that we were talking about, 2016, where I showed you. Yes, you go under your trigger probes. Yes, we had this horizontal path. You can navigate here. It will take you to their pattern, right? It will take you to this pattern. You can navigate and you preview the record. It will take you there. The third way is your, yes, accessing through your discovery status. Now, if I go to my discovery status, I schedule any of the discovery. Click discovery under the status also, when it will find any of the under the ECC queue, you can check that it will give you a pattern. Any pattern related to your Windows 2016, 2020, it is classifying, it will then identify and then explore. Yes, see, it launched the pattern Windows OS Server. You can navigate from here as well. So there are three ways through which you can access patterns. Right. Talking about our success stories, right? We had, we as CEO team in Kubernetes, so we had quite good success stories, right? That we have implemented for our clients. So when there was an issue when two companies were merging with different IT support teams and tools. So what results we got was the platform solution across the merged organization. We had automation of tasks and workflows. We had improved reporting and metrics visibility. We also had a challenge of untrusted CMDB, right? The result was we were able to achieve a CMDB health score of 99%, right? We had reliable executable change and incident process with the reference CIs. So yeah, you can go through these success stories that we have built. Okay, talking about a very important point is your ROI. That is your CMDB aligned with business value. We have some questions popping up. Please can the another session on her dashboard? Sure, I will. Would you mind checking connectivity? We'll check from your handle. Okay. You're not able to hear me? Everyone not able to hear me? I think you can, okay. Talking about big ROI, right, on ITSM effectiveness. So one of the best practices or exercise you can apply inside the company is how we can create or include our services, right? So the first part is identifying. Identifying what? Identifying your technology, right? The technology can be, anything, a laptop, a tablet, could be a phone or any interface device. Then we have your application, right? Then application could be applying your business services, data. Where is my data stored? What is the storage capability that we have? Communication, production servers, workstations, or common object environment. We have IT management, which is your processes, SLA management, and your performance monitoring. We have security, we have policies and principles, we have security control mechanisms, we have virus management system, we have programming and testing tools, right? So I'm going to tell you something about your business service impact analysis that you see here. So we need to be very clear and precise here, which will be our main infrastructure, which will be our means, how we're going to assign them, how we're going to protect them, how we're going to see what's inside. So what happens is when you go inside your ServiceNow instance and you don't see CMDB, right? It is not configured. Everyone will come in and say, let's create a record, right? Let's have, but we don't have any info, right? How can we control? How can we identify? How can we protect? Which is a risk, which is a means, which is a priority. So in ITSM, with leveraging ITSM, infrastructure service management, and with the CMDB, it will give you the control and tracking purpose, right? It will give you a way to notify what exactly the problem belongs to, like in a CI that we saw. Okay, this is something faulty server, device, network, router, switch. We'll move to infrastructure monitoring. Now, what will an infrastructure monitoring look without a CMDB, right? How are we going to monitor or control the information that we have? Something could be related to the health of the system outages. Sometimes they are SNMP controls, monitor networking. Some companies have NOC. We have, where they say our server is down, network point is down, a device is not working fine. So this way they can monitor the technology. Even if you don't want to do that, we can have software, like we have security operations, we have a protection for intrusion rules, we have firewall, we have IPs, we have SIEM technology, which are related to those, some kind of companies that we use, and all the vendors related to the point to protect and know which the metric is. Now, sometimes they want to know how many alerts they're receiving, right? They would want to configure alerts. They would want to know every day, every month, every hour, how the alerts are being triggered. How can we create CMDB? So basically, we don't only need a relation, right? That something is occurring or something's happening. We need to always protect our infrastructure and know how we can improve it day by day to avoid any disruption to our services. We are on time, and I tried to cover as much as I could for CMDB and discovery. So yes, the recording would be shared with you in a couple of days. You do not worry about it. So yes, it will be shared with you. So you want to have Q&A, you can just post your questions and I will try to answer them right here. And now, if you have identification and reconciliation engine in place, right? So the duplicate CIs will not have. So even if I told you there are three things, if it finds a single match, it will update with the attributes or details you provided in discovery. It will have no match, it will create a CI. It will have multiple matches, it will stop through your identification rule. That is why it is very important to have identification rule, uniquely identifying CS, so that you can prevent your CMDB to make sure that it doesn't have duplicate CIs. Identification rule is the basic. So you can post your questions. I will respond you. The recording will be available in a couple of days. Thank you so much for your time. Please do share your feedback, how it was. I've tried as much as I can to cover from CMDB and discovery, but as you know, in 1 hour, we cannot go in depth of CMDB and discovery. Still, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as much as I can. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Have a rocking day. Be safe, guys. Take care. And I'm never off duty. You can ping me. I'm available on LinkedIn. Kubernetes has already shared my email IDs. You can drop me a mail, message, anything. I'm happy to help. Keep learning, keep growing. Take care. ITOM is an amazing module. You guys should go out and leverage this module. The market is wide. You will have a great knowledge and a great visibility. Trust me. Thank you so much. Signing off for now. I'll stop sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna drop this off. Take care, bye-bye. Please keep posting your questions. Yes, you will receive the recording. It will be automatically placed on the cloud where it will be easy to fetch. You'll be getting the link where you can download and have a review of it. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care. Good night.